Here's a cute example from a couple of years ago. The banjo player from Mumford & Sons tweeted that he liked a book that apparently had not been approved by the revolution. So, of course, he had to delete the tweet, then take time away from the band. And then the cringing apology, I have come to better understand the pain caused by the book I endorse. Pain? From a book? Unless he hit the drummer over the head with it. What happened to I can read whatever the fuck I want?
Good morning. It is Wednesday, March the 15th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the Star-Spangled Banner, we'll have Tom Cotton, Squawk Box, No Free Lunch, Rape of the Mind, Covert Manipulation, and George-lakoff. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing and remove your hats for the national anthem of the United States of America.
Thank you. And now there's no free lunch. 250 Economic Truths by David-Bahnsen.
Social organization. The basic problem of social organization is how to coordinate the economic activities of large numbers of people. Even in relatively backward societies, extensive division of labor and specialization of function are required to make effective use of available resources. In advanced societies, the scale on which coordination is needed to take full advantage of the opportunities offered by modern science and technology is enormously greater. Literally, millions of people are involved in providing one another with their daily bread, let alone with their yearly automobiles. The challenge to the believer in liberty is to reconcile this widespread interdependence with individual freedom. Milton Friedman. The individual human action embedded in this miracle of social cooperation is both caused by a free and virtuous society, and the free and virtuous society is enhanced by this social cooperation. The individual and collective benefits of the social contract are a sight to behold. Interventions from disinterested third parties are its greatest threat.
And that was There's No Free Lunch by David-Bahnsen. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now a little bit more of Squawk Box with some commentary.
What
What I don't understand about this, Mike, is here you have a situation where the banking system looked like it could falter, and there was the government there to backstop it. And we hear over, and for some reason, that is considered a bad thing. And I'm just taking the other side of this for a second. On the other side, we hear headline after headline. I can't tell you how many times we reported in the morning that somebody lost, hundreds of millions of dollars in Bitcoin from their account, and they can't get it back. It's inaccessible to them. It can't be found. They lost the password. Something happened. And there's nobody to call. And there's no government to backstop you. What do you think of that?
I think that's...
And so I'm going to continue with this in a second, but you'll notice that what he's doing again is he's pretending to conduct an interview, but really what he's doing is engaging in a debate. He's steering the conversation. It's called reality shaping. A little bit more.
Why the crypto people kind of love crypto. It's a little bit that there's an independence to it, right? Own your keys, own your crypto. There is a responsibility to it. There's an instant settlement, so we don't have settlement.
Do you laugh at the depositors, the venture capitalists, and all of the CFOs of those portfolio companies and say, you people are ridiculous then? I don't think you think that.
See right there. Here he is. He's steering the conversation, and the person that's engaging with him should be saying to him, excuse me, are you arguing with me? That's the best thing to do in a situation like this. If you find yourself at work or on the soccer field or whatever, and they're using these kinds of tactics, do you do this? Do you do that? Do you find, I don't believe that you do that. You say, excuse me, but are you asking questions? Are you trying to find out who I am? Or are you engaging me in a debate? And that shuts them up right away. And then you cut off the conversation. You say, maybe we'll talk again some other time. Bye-bye. Walk away. And that's what this guy who's on the other end of this should do, is say, you know what? Why don't we talk again when you decided whether or not you want to engage in a debate or you want to conduct an interview? Goodbye. Because what the guy's blatantly doing here, steering the conversation in a particular direction. He has his own opinions and ideas about what's right and what's wrong, and he's going to make sure that at the end of this so-called interview, the audience knows that, and that's wrong. And you should listen for it. And if you get the opportunity to make comments, send comments into shows like this, call him on it. Why are you conducting a debate under the guise of conducting an interview? Back in a minute. So thank you. This is going to be a little bit of Squawk Box. Senator Tom Cotton is on with the host. I don't remember what his name is, and they're talking about the banking crisis, and let's see if we can slip this in here. How's this go here?
That it was those issues that led to this. I mean, I can go back to the financial crisis.
Let's try a little bit farther back.
Things like DEI and ESG.
There we go. We're almost there.
And low interest rate assets in an inflationary environment. Now, I also suspect that given what this bank has been up to, just look at their website, just look at some of the events they've sponsored, that they probably were distracted somewhat by things like DEI and ESG investing and climate change. Likewise, you've got the Fed out there doing climate stress tests.
Maybe it was unfair of me to bring up the question. Do you really think that it was those issues that led to this? I mean, I can go back to the financial crisis of 2008, and you can look at the boards of those companies, and for the most part, they were white men across the board. They still failed.
I don't think that's the primary cause. The primary cause, again, is the negligent and risky practices of the bank managers and the failure of Biden administration supervisors to take action against it.
So there, we got an instance where the left gets away with it. The guy that is interviewing him, I forget what his name is, a younger guy, and he's a lefty. As you see him on MSNBC on quite a bit. But anyway, so he's interviewing Tom Cotton, who happens to be a Republican, and Tom Cotton makes a valid point that's been made already, that there's a lot of people that think that part of the reason that the managers weren't doing their job is because they were distracted by ESG and SEI and all these other whatever that stands for. In other words, on things that have nothing to do with banking and have nothing to do with business. Now, The interviewer, supposed interviewer, he cuts in because really what he's doing is he's not conducting an interview at all. The host is conducting a debate under the guise of conducting an interview. Okay, so that's part of the reason why he always sets everything up with questions, so he can have plausible deniability. If he's confronted, hey, you're arguing with me. No, I'm just asking. And so you'll notice he says, do you really think? And the emphasis on the word really. Do you really think that? And he makes Senator Tom Cotton back down. Senator Tom Cotton says, oh, well, I don't think it's the primary cause. So Senator Cotton now, Mr. Republican, Mr. Erzatz conservative, backs down in the face of Mr. Left-winger, who has, it's in no interest, in Mr. Left-winger's interest, to allow Mr. Cotton to criticize SEI, ESG, or any other left-wing thing. So, and you'll notice he doesn't make any statements. He doesn't come out and make any accusations. He just asks the questions. Do you really think, because I can show you, go back to 2008 and there's a board of directors and most of them are white, and Tom Cotton allows him to get away with that. One of the first things Tom Cotton should have done is, number one, call him on it and say, excuse me, but, this isn't a debate. It's an interview. And second thing is to go in and say that your assertion, your bald assertion that the boards of directors of all these banks were majority white is just that, a bald assertion. And then go ahead and say, yes, I do really believe, not only believe, I know that if these banks had not had their eye on the ball, were concerned more with business than with fantasy, that the bank would have survived this situation, probably wouldn't have gotten itself into this jam in the first place. Back yourself up. Don't allow the left to bully and intimidate you. And that's exactly what just happened to Tom Cotton, Senator Cotton. He allowed tone of voice. It wasn't even what the guy said or what he asked. It was tone of voice. Do you really, and that was the key right there. That was the trigger word. Do you really think that? And the threat here, it's a bluff, because he is, and he says, oh, I can show you this, I can show you that, pretending that he has evidence to show that Senator Cotton is wrong. Senator Cotton allows himself to be bluffed, and he immediately backs down, not only to his detriment, but to the detriment of the Republican Party and to the detriment of every conservative in this country. Remember, when you open your mouth in public as a true conservative, or as even Erzatz conservative, you are not just representing yourself, you're representing every conservative in the United States. So if you don't have your act together, say no comment, okay? Stay out of the way, okay? Let other people deal with the issue. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, The Rape of the Mind by Joost-meerlo.
Chapter 3, Medication into Submission. As we have already seen in the preceding chapters, it is not only the political and Pavlovian pressure that may drag down man's mind into servile submissiveness. There are many other human habits and actions which have a coercive influence. All kinds of rumors have been circulated telling how brainwashees, before surrendering to their inquisitor, have been poisoned with mysterious drugs. This chapter aims to describe what medical techniques, not only drugs, can do to reach behind man's inner secrets. Actually, the thought control police no longer need drugs, though occasionally they have been used. I will touch upon another side to this problem as well, namely our dangerous social dependence on various drugs. The problem of addiction, making it easier for us to slip into a pattern of submissiveness. The alcoholic has no mental backbone anymore when you give him his drink. The same is true for the chronic user of sedatives or other pills. The use of alcohol or drugs may result in a chemical dependency, weakening our stamina under exceptional circumstances. In the field of practical medicine, magic thinking is still rampant. Though we flatter ourselves that we are rational and logical in our choice of therapy, somewhere we know that hidden feelings and unconscious motivations direct the prescribing hand. In spite of the therapeutic triumphs of the last 50 years, the area of chemotherapy and antibiotics, let us not forget that the same means of medical victory can be used to defeat our purposes. No day passes that the mail does not flood the doctor's office with suggestions about what to use in his clinical practice. My desk overflows with gadgets and multicolored pills telling me that without them, mankind cannot be happy. The propaganda campaign reaching our medical eyes and ears is often so laden with suggestions that we can be persuaded to distribute sedatives and stimulants where straight critical thinking would deter us, and we would seek the deeper causes of the difficulties. This is true not only for modern pharmacotherapy, the same tendencies can also be shown in psychotherapeutic methods. This chapter aims to approach the problem of mental coercion with the question, how compulsive can the use of medical drugs and medical and psychological methods become? In the former chapters on menticide, I was able to describe political attempts to bring the human mind into submission and servility. Drugs and their psychological equivalents are also able to enslave people. Dependency on the drug provider. Not long ago, I was asked to give advice to a couple who had marital difficulties for a long time. Although at the time of their marriage, the husband and wife were deeply in love, each had brought to his adventure of happiness the wrong emotional investment. She had expected him to be a kind of Hollywood hero, an eternal gallant, dedicated completely to her. He had been touched by her childlike dependency, but secretly, he had hoped she would be mother, nurse, and companion to him. As might have been predicted, neither partner lived up to the other's expectations. Both were bitterly disappointed, and neither realized what was wrong. After a while, the wife became a whining, complaining nag. There were daily scenes, arguments, and recriminations. The husband began to seek solace away from home, with women he had known before his marriage. Soon thereafter, the wife found herself unable to sleep and started to take barbiturates to bring herself the soothing forgetfulness of slumber. She became completely dependent on them and retreated into all kinds of vague bodily complaints, which could be relieved temporarily by more drugs. When the husband first discovered this, he was appalled. But gradually, he noticed that the drugs seemed to modify and ease the discord of their relationship. Under almost constant sedation, his wife was no longer a shrew. Indeed, she was no longer even interested in him. He discovered that he had much more freedom and could spend his evenings and holidays as he chose, as long as he provided her with wherewithal for those magic pills that had restored peace to their home. But one night, the wife took an overdose of barbiturates, and it looked almost as if she had attempted suicide. This nearly fatal occurrence aroused all the husband's guilt feelings, and he sought medical and psychological help in an effort to discover what had gone wrong in the marriage of two people who had felt so much initial love and goodwill. This is only one of many cases in which the sleeping pill and drug habit covers up deep-seated, unspoken unhappiness. The growing dependency on easy escape into a soft and mild-appearing sedation and oblivion is an evil we must recognize. The general increase in the use of sleeping drugs is alarming, and the number of suicides resulting from barbiturates is growing every year. Nor can we look at such a phenomenon as simply a medical problem. Dependence on alcohol, barbiturates, drugs, and other soporifics indicates a latent and overt social fear and anxiety, and the need to escape from reality. Drugs seem to their users to be the miracle tablets which provide a passive and magic solution to all problems, and bring them to a point beyond the boundaries of the real world. The leader of a gang who is able to provide such drugs for his members is sure of their servility.
And that was Chapter 3, Medication into Submission, from The Rape of the Mind by joost-meerlo, M.D. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, it's going to be Chapter 5, about 10 minutes of Chapter 5 from the book Don't Think of an Elephant by George-Lakoff. And it's all about framing arguments and how to use frames and metaphors in order to win arguments.
Chapter 5. Politics and Personhood. Each of us has a sense of personal identity, your sense of who you are as a person. Central to that personal identity is a moral sense, a sense of what is right and wrong, what justifies our actions. That moral sense, like all that we believe and understand, is physical, built into the neural circuitry of our brains. If that changes, if the circuitry characterizing our moral sense changes, it changes our personhood. That is, it changes the kind of people we are, what we think is right and how we act. We have seen that all politics is moral since political policies are assumed to be right, not wrong or irrelevant. Our political divisions come down to moral divisions, characterized in our brains by very different brain circuitry. We've seen that the major moral divisions in our politics derive from two opposed models of the family: a progressive, nurturant parent morality, and a conservative, strict father morality. That is no accident, since your family life has a profound effect on how you understand yourself as a person. The effect of family life is complex, and peers have an effect as well. One result of that is biconceptualism. Biconceptuals have both kinds of moral circuitry in their brain, mutually inhibiting each other and applying to different issues person by person. There is no middle, no morally based political ideology common to all moderates. Regardless of whether you are progressive, conservative, or biconceptual, though, your morality, your sense of what a person should be and do, is deeply connected to the way your brain triggers emotions and determines whether you feel good or bad in certain situations and about certain ideas. It is worth understanding why. The science behind empathy and morality. One of the great discoveries of neuroscience is the mirror neuron system. Simply put, that system operates in our brains and gives us the capacity to connect with others, to know and even feel what they feel, and to connect with the natural world. It is the heart of our capacity for empathy. From emotion research, we know that certain emotions correlate with certain actions in our own bodies, in facial muscles, in posture, and so on. When we feel happy, for instance, our facial muscles are prompted to produce a smile, as opposed to a frowning or a baring of the teeth. We also know that the physical cues that broadcast emotion in others will usually trigger in an observer the same brain response that would accompany those physical cues of the same emotion in ourselves. That is why we can usually tell if someone else is happy or sad, or angry or bored, and why a smile is often unconsciously greeted with a smile or a yawn with a yawn. All this is thanks to the mirror neuron system, which has circuitry connecting the brain's action centers and perception centers. As a consequence, what you see others doing is neurally paired with brain activity that could control your own actions. Muscles are activated by firing neurons, and many of the same neurons are firing whether you are performing an action or whether you are seeing someone else performing the same action. This mirroring allows you to see the musculature tied to the emotions of others and sense in your brain what the same musculature would be like in your body, and hence the same emotions in yourself. In short, it allows you to feel the emotions of others. That is what empathy is about. But this effect has further repercussions in the brain. Neuroscientists have discovered a brain overlap, too, between imagining and doing. Many of the same neural regions are activated when we form mental images as when we actually see. The same holds true for whether we imagine moving or are actually moving. That means we have the capacity to empathize not only with someone present, but also with someone we can imagine, remember, read about, dream about, and so on. That is why we can be deeply moved by a novel or a movie or even a newspaper story. Neuroscientists have also shown that when someone is in love and they see their loved one in pain, the pain center in their own brain is activated. Emotional pain is real. Sound.
And that's Don't Think of an Elephant. It's first part of Chapter 5 from Don't Think of an Elephant, Know Your Values and Frame the Debate by George-Lakoff. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the next 3 covert emotional manipulation tactics.
7. Blaming the victim. You saddled me with a lie I never deserved. You led me to believe I was responsible. The prize. Irving Wallace. With this tactic, the manipulator holds the victim responsible for the problems in a relationship. This tactic is a powerful means of putting you on the defense, which makes you look guilty, or making you believe you truly are the one to blame. As the relationship goes bad, and when it finally comes to an end, the manipulator will claim that you are the one at fault. They may even manipulate mutual friends and family into believing you are the one to blame, turning them against you. Just when you need support, you find yourself with little or none. Skilled manipulators always pretend they are or were the victim. 8. Indirect insults. Always remember, he knows exactly which buttons to push. Unknown. Name-calling and insults are direct and obviously aggressive and abusive. An underhanded way to disguise aggression and abuse is to deliver it without the angry or sarcastic tone of voice and to make it sound like teaching, helping, giving advice, or offering solutions. It appears to be a sincere attempt to help, but it's actually the opposite. It's a powerful way to undermine your confidence in yourself and your abilities. For example, a manipulator might tell you that you would be less boring as a dance partner if you took a few lessons, when you never knew he considered you boring to dance with. Or she might tell you that she thinks you're a perfectly adequate partner when you question her about what you sense as her emotional withdrawal. Or he might say that he loves it when you wear that dress because it has such a slimming effect on you. These indirect insults are sometimes called backhanded compliments, but that doesn't do justice to the effect this tactic has when the manipulator, someone whom you consider close to you and whom you believe has your best interest at heart, zeroes in on your biggest insecurities or disparages what you consider your best qualities. 9. Insinuating comments or compliments. The manipulator innocently makes what is actually a carefully crafted, insinuating comment designed to evoke an uncomfortable emotional response. When you take offense, he will tell you that is not what he intended. The statement is usually disguised as a compliment, but it's one that does not feel very flattering. It is disguised enough, though, for you to believe you might have misunderstood. The manipulator knows what will bother you, and he or she will enjoy dropping a bomb like this and watching the fallout. Their comment is designed to have several possible meanings, many of which will inspire hurt feelings and doubt. You may feel flummoxed and left without a meaningful response when you first hear it because it has so many possible interpretations. As an example, your partner smiles and says, "You know what? You could make a lot of money as a prostitute," after you've had sex with him. When you question him, he will tell you he meant it as a compliment. But you will wonder what he really meant for a long time to come. For the example given, You might wonder why your partner was thinking about prostitutes when he was in bed with you. Why he knows so much about prostitution in the first place. What he really thinks of you, and the amount you should put on the bill you're tempted to send to him. And you will also wonder if he was just complimenting you on how great he thinks you are in bed, as he said he was. Comments like these will go to work on you and provide the fuel for plenty of resentment, future arguments, and relationship insecurity. It's easy for the manipulator to make it look like a misunderstanding on your part. But therein lies the clue. The manipulator says he or she meant it as an innocent compliment, one that you simply misunderstood. Of course you did. A compliment doesn't usually hurt your feelings or leave you feeling bewildered. 10.
And that was 7, 8, and 9 of the 30 covert emotional manipulation tactics. And again, we're looking at this from a political standpoint, Democrats versus Republican, the Democrats being the manipulators. They're always trying to put themselves in a position to be able to successfully blame the Republicans for whatever it is that happens. Let's look at the budget situation. The left continues, the Democrats continue to spend money, as though they just don't care, and they don't. Because either way they win. Either they're going to be able to continue to spend money, and whether it's borrowing it or raising taxes or whatever, or they're going to bankrupt the country. And if they bankrupt the country, they're going to turn around and blame the Republicans. They're going to say it's the fault of conservatism and capitalism, and that now it's time for socialism. Therefore, there's a one of the in the book that is about, well, anyways, the statement goes, if it doesn't fit, force it. If it breaks, it was meant to be replaced anyway. And that's their attitude when it comes to the budget. We'll just keep on spending money. Either we'll be able to get away with it and do whatever we want in order to stay in power in terms of spending, or everything will come crashing down. And when it does, number one, we'll end up blaming the Republicans for it. And number two, we will then be able to say capitalism failed, and let's go ahead and resort to socialism. Back in a minute. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. So I'm reminding you that the left has no authority, no power, and they can't win.